Did you know the SewTites Magnetic Cutting Mat is not just for cutting fabric? I'm going to show you how to get precise positioning when you're doing your machine embroidery. I have a fun project for this. I'm going to be embroidering names on some Starbucks holiday aprons for my daughter's local Starbucks, and I've already done their regular green ones, and while I was working on that project, I had 24 aprons to embroider names on. I've been using the SewTite magnets to adhere the material or your project in the hoop so you don't have to use adhesives. But then I realized if I combined the traditional SewTites, and for this demonstration, I'm going to use the SewTites Dots, with the cutting mat and two boosters from the cutting mat system, you can actually hoop your stabilizer, position your hoop on the magnetic cutting mat with two of these dots underneath the stabilizer. Then I use the boosters to hold the hoop in place after I get it square on the grid. This gives me the perfect environment to position the apron right in the hoop where I want it, straight and ready to go. And then I simply put on the backings to the SewTites to hold the apron in the hoop, and I take the boosters off and I can lift up my hoop and stick it on the machine and embroider. It makes it so quick and easy. I think I cut my setup time per apron in half using this magnetic cutting mat with boosters and SewTites. So let me show you what you're going to need. I'm using an aqua mesh wash away stabilizer because you're not going to see the inside of the apron, but it's there and it's not like encased in a lining or anything. So I always like to use a totally wash away stabilizer when I'm working on those types of projects. I've got my two SewTites dots right here, and I've got some boosters. I'm only going to need two of them. Now, one of the benefits of using magnets instead of adhesive to hold the apron on the stabilizer is you're not going to gum up your hoop. You can see I've used adhesive in the past because you can see that my hoops are a little bit messy. So now I can clean these and I'm never going to have to worry about gumming them up with adhesive anymore. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut myself a piece of stabilizer. And see, I can cut it right on the cutting mat. So yes, I guess I am using it for cutting. Then I'm going to stick the stabilizer in the hoop, and I'm going to hoop my stabilizer so it's taut in the hoop. And this is kind of important. You want to make sure it's like at the top of a drum so there's no play. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my two SewTites. I'm going to slide the metal backings off, and I'm going to put them color side down, because the plastic cover is not magnetic. The magnet is on the underside of the SewTite. And I've used all the SewTites. I've used the lights, I've used the HD, the heavy duty ones. So really you just need two, and I'm gonna stick them underneath the hoop like this so you can see them, right? And you can also see the grid. So I'm gonna put one here and I'm gonna put one here, and then I'm gonna make sure that the grid is lined up with my crosshairs on my hoop. So I have the center of the hoop markings here and here. So if I line those up with the lines on the hoop, I now know my hoop is square with the grid, and that's what I'm going to use to line up the fabric in the hoop. Now, to keep my hoop stable, I'm literally going to use two SewTites, and I'm going to stick those on the very upper corners so they're out of the way. Now notice my hoop is secure on the cutting mat because I've used the boosters. And if you're using a larger hoop, you can put 3 in there if you really want to keep it stable. But see, now look, that's not moving. All right, so my next step is I'm going to take my apron, and I know for this project, because I've done so many of them, I want the name to end about 1/2 inch away from the bound edge of the side of the apron on this side. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick this on in the hoop somewhere where I know I'm not going to hit my SewTite. So I have a SewTite here. And actually maybe what I'll do is, let me just slide that down a little bit. I just want to make sure it stays out of the way. Let me just make sure I'm still square. And I'm going to stick, again, the apron in the hoop. I have to line the top edge of my apron with the lines on the grid, and then I'm going to take the tops of the SewTites or the bottom metal parts of the SewTites that I have under the hoop, and I'm just going to stick those on. Now you can see what I can do is I can remove my boosters and I can lift this up, and notice that's staying in the hoop very nicely. So that's how I'm going to use it to position the apron in the hoop. Now, if I were embroidering one thing and I was going to be getting it in the center of the hoop, I would use the center bullseye to position the fabric in the hoop so it's centered. But for this project, all I really need to do is make sure it's square and even in the hoop so it's not crooked. And I can just double check that. And if I feel like I need another SewTite or something else to hold it, now that I know it's secure with the SewTites, I'm just going to put one pin right there just to make sure it stays. That is very securely in the hoop. You don't necessarily need to use a pin, but once I've got it in the hoop, secure with the two SewTites, just to hold this floppy end down, I'm just going to stick a pin there. You could also use a third SewTite if you want to. So now I'm going to show you how I'm going to embroider this right here in the hoop. So we're going to go to the machine and I'm going to pick out a name and we're going to start embroidering. You can see that I'm working with the name Alex. I've loaded that onto the screen. I'm working on my Brother PRS 100 embroidery machine that I absolutely love. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to set it. Then I'm going to click embroidery. Then I'm going to put the based in the hoop feature. Now, most machines have a based in the hoop feature. This is going to be our second check to make sure we are square and in the position we want to be. After I've got it there, I'm going to switch the view to the actual apron so you can see how I'm going to position this right where I want it. Notice it's now indicating the center of the name with that little plus sign, and there's a little red laser dot showing me where that is in the hoop. So let me show you how I'm going to put this into position in the hoop. I know I'm working red on red. Sorry about that. I'm going to move Alex up to the upper right-hand corner. Now remember, the center of his name is indicated by that red laser point. So if I put it right there, maybe I'll drop it down slightly. I know that the total length of this name is 44 millimeters, which is almost an inch. There's 25 millimeters to an inch. So I think that that's pretty safe because that's where the middle of Alex is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to baste in the hoop and see if we're good. Notice how straight that basting is when you compare it to the edge of the apron. It's perfect. Now, I also can see that the positioning of it is a good position from the side of the apron, so I'm ready to embroider. Look how nice that came out. Doesn't that look nice? But you can see here, I just embroidered one little name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the pin, and then I'm going to cut around the embroidery as close as I can using my rotary cutter. And I'm just going to carefully cut, making sure I don't cut the fabric of the apron. Right, and you can see now what we have is that one little hole in the stabilizer. I can probably get 2 or 3 more names in this hoop safely without stressing about it, so I'm not wasting all of the stabilizer in the hoop. So to set it up again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick my SewTites back under the stabilizer, and this time I'm going to work over here, and I'll put one over here, and I'll put one down here, and then I'm going to square up the hoop with the grid on the cutting mat like this, so everything is nice and square. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick my boosters back on like this. And then all I have to do is add my second apron. And I'll just do it sort of next to the first one here. So we'll just stick the apron in, making sure it's parallel to, or the top edge is parallel to the grid on the cutting mat. And then when it is, I'm going to just stick the little metal backings right onto the SewTites underneath the stabilizer to hold it. And then again, I'm just going to stick that one pin up in this corner. The reason why I have a pin here is I don't want this to flop loose, and I don't want to put a SewTite too close to where I'm actually embroidering, because I don't want to damage the needle on my machine by hitting it. So basically what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to stick the pin in, lift up my boosters, and then I'm just going to secure the pin. All right, so now my second apron is ready to go. So you can see how quick and easy it is to get precise positioning using the SewTites Magnetic Cutting Board for something other than cutting. The SewTites cutting system is a little bit pricey. It's a few $100s. So I want to show you how to get value out of it by using it for more than just cutting out fabric. In my first Cool Tools episode, I showed you how to use it to cut fabric. I showed you how to use it to hold your pattern pieces down when you're doing fit adjustments. It works really great as a design board. Plus, you can use it to hold shifty fabrics along the selvage edge to keep those straight when you're cutting out shifty fabrics. So going forward, if I come up with other ways to use this amazing cutting mat, booster magnets, and magnetized ruler, I will be sharing those with you. It's fun to think that just yesterday I was still at the Houston Quilt Festival. I was running around the vendor hall before my last class at noon, and I stopped in and visited some of my favorite vendors, including SewTites. So I got to visit with the ladies there. If you're interested in getting your own SewTites Magnetic Cutting System, check the link below, because if you use my affiliate link, you get 15% off. Tomorrow there will be Fit Tip Tuesday, so join me for that at noon Eastern Standard Time. And the topic is going to be a surprise, because I have a few things I'm trying to decide which one I feel like working on for that. And then I will be doing subscriber Q&A on Wednesday, and I can tell you the topic for that. I got a question from someone who got their Baby Lock Ovation Serger out of the box because of my Baby Lock Ovation Serger series, and she wanted to know how to do the 5-thread. And I can't believe I didn't cover that in the series. So subscriber Q&A on Wednesday is going to be how to thread and sew with the 5-thread safety stitch on the Baby Lock Ovation Serger. And then I will be with you on Friday for FabFit Friday. I'm going to be sharing with you my bias top and sleeve that I'm starting to work on. And I have another quick Christmas project. So I'm going to be sprinkling in Christmas projects that you can make for special people on your list. So it's going to be a fun FabFit Friday. So join me for that. Thank you so much for watching Cool Tools, and have a wonderful rest of your day.